Okay. I guess everybody else ran away. At least we will have people watching online. All right. Acharya, Osutera, such as Shri Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalana, Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON, Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Rense Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shiva Sarigo, Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Swami Kunda, Radha Kunda Devi Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Vacharna Ki Jai, Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Shivani Lasini Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premananda. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhagale, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Vajani, Nivasesha, Shunyavadi Pasyacha Deshitarni, Saumagana Tamanandasha, Gananjana Slakya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So today is a very special day in the Vaishnava calendar, and several things happen today. One, of course, is the appearance of Radhakund, which we're going to be primarily speaking about this morning. And the other things are Krishna's Vasant Ras. That means springtime rasa dance. Now, for those of you in Fiji, it's not springtime. It's the opposite. But for those of us who live in the upper portion of the world, it is actually springtime right now. So it's a springtime ras, Vasant. That means the springtime. It's also Balaram's Rasayacha, and we told the story a little bit yesterday, but we don't have time to tell it this morning, where Balaram killed Vidvida, gorilla. And it's also the appearance of Shaimananda Goswami and the appearance of Vamsi Vadana Thakur. So I wish I had time to talk about all these different personalities and everything, but we're primarily going to talk about the appearance of Radhakund. Now, some of you may be thinking, doesn't Radhakund appear, or didn't Radhakund appear during Bahulashtami? Because that's the standard understanding. Bahulashtami is the 8th day of the moon in the month of Kartik. And so if you study the writings of the Acharyas, and also the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll see that when Krishna killed the Arishtasura demon, it was spring. And Bahulashtami is fall. Kartika is fall in the northern hemisphere. So how could the two coincide? Spring and fall at completely different times, 180 degrees, 180 degrees, 180 days different, isn't it? Just like, wow, how can the two be in the same day? Well, they're not. Actually, in the Chaitra Purnima, which is today, that's when Krishna killed Arishtasura and the appearance of Radhakund. So that's corroborated by the Acharyas, by Jiva Goswami, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and others. So then, what is Bahulashtami? That's interesting. Bahulashtami is a special day for worshipping Radhakund. However, it is not the day that Lord Chaitanya discovered Radhakund, although you'll find people saying that sometimes too. Lord Chaitanya discovered Radhakund Bahulashtami. He didn't, because according to Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Braj at the end of Kartik. So the end of Kartik is different from the beginning of Kartik, where you have Bahulashtami, the first day, the 8th day of Kartik, the month of Kartik. So It's a special day, and there's other stories regarding Bhavalastami, but it's not the appearance of Radha Kunda. Another point is, did Radha Kunda appear at midnight? And there's no Shastric evidence to indicate that. In fact, Krishna killed Arishtashura during the twilight. In other words, it was like the evening time when the sun was just going down. So it appears that, if you had to speculate, that Radha Kunda appeared around probably about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So, okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the appearance of Radha Kunda. So first, we're going to quote from the Nectar of Instruction. And the Nectar of Instruction has a lot of information about Radha Kunda, and especially injunctions how one should live at Radha Kunda. And this is from the 9th verse of the Nectar of Instruction, the Upadeshamrita by Bir Krishna Goswami, and I'm going to read the Sanskrit. Vaikuntha janito varamadupuri tatrapi rasotsavad Vrindaranya udarapani rapanat tatrapi govardhana Radha kundam mihapi gokulapate premamritam lavanat Puryarasya virajato giritate sevam viviki naka. And so the translation is, the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavana is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Shri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial, nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So here, of course, Rupa Goswami is giving the hierarchy of the hierarchy means what's important, more important, and most important. Understand? Comparative and superlative, like this. So, of course, when it's described about Vrindavan, the forest of Vrindavan, it's not that description doesn't mean just the city of Vrindavan that we're accustomed to. In the Braj area, there's 12 forests, 12 primary forests, and there's some upavanas, but we're not going to talk about that. 12 primary forests, and the Vrindavan forest is the largest one. And Govardhan Hill and Radha Kund are within the Vrindavan forest. So it's part of the Vrindavan forest. And of course the district is Mathura. I'm going to read the purport. The purport was written by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The demon Arishta wanted to kill Krishna and Balaram, and thus he assumed the form of a huge bull with sharp horns. Everyone in Krishna's cowherd village became terrified when Arishtashura approached it. The Lord pacified them, and when the bull demon charged him, he seized him by the horns and threw him about 6 meters. Though weakened, Arishta still wanted to attack Krishna. Thus, dripping with sweat, he charged the Lord once again. This time, Krishna grabbed his horns, threw him on the ground, and thrashed him like a pile of wet clothing. The demon vomited blood and gave up his life. Then, Rama and Krishna, while being honored by the demigods and cowherd boys, returned to the village. So there's further information I wanted to read. And this is from Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami continued, the demon Arishta then came to the coward village, appearing in the form of a bull with a large hump. He made the earth tremble as he tore it apart with his hooves. The Sri Vishnu Purana, it says, Arishtashura entered Krishna's village at twilight as the Lord prepared to dance with the gopis. So twilight means just when the sun's going down in the evening, which is what I said. And there's another quote here. Once midway through the period of dusk, same thing. Dusk is like twilight. When Lord Janardhan was eager to perform the rasa dance, Arishtashura madly entered the coward village, terrifying everyone. Arishtashura bellowed very harshly and pawed the ground, with his tail raised and his eyes glaring. He began to tear up the embankments with the tips of his horns, every now and then passing a little stool and urine. My dear king, clouds hovered about sharp horns Arishtashura's hump, mistaking it for a mountain. And when the coward men and ladies caught sight of the demon, they were struck with terror. Indeed, the strident reverberation of his roar so frightened the pregnant cows and women that they lost their fetuses in miscarriages. The domestic animals fled the pasture in fear, O king, and all the inhabitants rushed to Lord Govinda for shelter, crying, Krishna! Krishna! When the Supreme Lord saw the coward community distraught and fleeing in fear, he calmed them, saying, don't be afraid. Then he called out to the bull demon as follows, you fool! What do you think you're doing, you wicked rascal, frightening the coward community and their animals, when I'm here just to punish corrupt miscreants like you? Having spoken these words, the infallible Lord Hari slapped his arms with his palms, further angering Arishta with the loud sounds. The Lord then casually threw his mighty serpentine arm over the shoulder of a friend and stood facing the demon. Thus provoked, Arishtashura pawed the ground with one of his hooves, and then, with the clouds hovering around his upraised tail, furiously charged Krishna. Pointing the tips of his horns straight ahead and glaring menacingly at Lord Krishna from the corners of his bloodshot eyes, Arishtashura rushed toward him at full speed, just like a thunderbolt hurled by Indra. The Supreme Lord Krishna seized Arishtashura by the horns and threw him back 18 steps, just as an elephant might do when fighting a rival elephant. Thus repulsed by the Supreme Lord, the bull demon got up and, breathing very hard and sweating all over his body, again charged him in a mindless rage. As Arishta attacked, Lord Krishna seized him by the horns and knocked him to the ground with his foot. The Lord then thrashed him as if he were a wet cloth, and finally he yanked out one of the demon's horns and struck him with it until he lay prostrate, vomiting blood and profusely excreting stool and urine, kicking his legs and rolling his eyes about. Arishtashura then went painfully to the abode of death. The demigods honored Lord Krishna by scattering flowers upon him. Having thus killed the bull demon Arishtashura, he, that's Krishna, who was a festival for the gopis' eyes, entered the coward village of Balaram. So, then there's the commentary that was written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he describes a joking conversation that occurred right after the killing of Arishtashura. And this is a beautiful joking conversation, and I'm going to read this joking conversation between Krishna and the gopis. The innocent young gopis said to Krishna, "Ah, Krishna, don't touch us now. O killer of the bull, alas, even though Arishta was a terrible demon, still he was a male cow, a bull. So you will have to undergo an atonement, just as Lord Indra did after killing Vritrasura." That story is there in the Bhagavatam. Vritrasura was actually Chitraketu before, who had been cursed by Parvati, but he was a great devotee. So how can you purify yourself without going to the trouble of visiting every single holy place in the three worlds? Krishna replied, "Why should I have to wander throughout the entire universe? I will at once bring all the countless pilgrimage places here and take my bath in them. Just watch." With this, Lord Mukunda struck his heel on the ground. Then he said, "This is the water of the Bhagavati river, coming from the Patala region. And now, O holy places, all of you please come here." When the Supreme Lord had spoken these words, all the holy places went there and appeared before him. Krishna then addressed the gopis as follows: "See all the holy places." But the gopis replied, "We don't see them as you described." Then those best of the holy places, joining their palms in supplication, spoke up. "I am the salt ocean. I am the ocean of milk. I am the Amara Virvika. I am the river Shona. I am the Sindhu. I am the Tamapani. I am the holy place Pushkara. I am the river Saraswati. And we are the Godavari, Yamuna, and Reva rivers, and the confluence of rivers at Prayag. Just see our waters." So after purifying himself by bathing, Lord Hari became quite arrogant and said, "I have produced a pond containing all the various holy places, whereas you gopis must never have executed any religious duties on this earth for the pleasure of Lord Brahma." Then Srimati Radharani addressed her girlfriends as follows: "I must create an even more beautiful pond, so go to work." And some of the acharyas describe something else that happened there. Krishna said, "You can bathe in my pond if you want." And the gopis said, Srimati Radharani said, "Your pond is contaminated because you bathed in it. So we're not going to bathe in this contaminated pond." In other words, they were saying that Krishna is so contaminated that all the holy places became contaminated by Krishna's presence. I mean, it's a really interesting interplay. We were talking last night about different indirect rasas. Of course, you have the direct ras, which is, in this particular case, the conjugal ras. But there's also Shantaras, Dasharas, Sakiras, and Vatsalya ras. And these are the basic primary rasas. Rasa means taste of a relationship. The word ras doesn't mean relationship, it means the taste you get from a relationship. And the bhava, or the emotions, bhavas are rasa samagri. Let me translate that for you. The bhavas, or emotions, are actually a combination of the rasas. So here you have the conjugal ras. In addition, you actually have at least two of the indirect rasas. You have the humor, actually more than two. You also have chivalry. You know, Krishna's creating this pond like this. You have the anger. You see? You got anger there. You have ghastliness. in which Krishna has actually killed the Aristashura demon, and there is also the stool and the urine and everything else. All of that's pretty ghastly. So you have at least 4 of the indirect rasas being manifest here. Particularly humor is being manifest here, and that's flavoring. Just to explain what's going on, it's flavoring the conjugal rasa, because the conjugal rasa is between Krishna and the gopis. So part of that conjugal rasa is not that they're just dancing and kissing all the time, but there's humor sometimes. There's teasing going on sometimes. There's man, where there's anger. Like you see sometimes that Radharani is getting very angry at Krishna. That's her man. So this flavors, we also mentioned last night, how the indirect rasas flavor the direct rasas. Something like a masala flavors one's vegetables. The subject. You put in a masala, garam masala, and it's all sorts of different tastes of masala. There's some things that are hot, there's some things that are bitter. So it actually flavors everything nicely. So here, you're finding the conjugal rasas being flavored in a very interesting way by the combination of the humor and chivalry and anger. It's really interesting, because the gopis are angry at Krishna. Krishna's not angry at the gopis, but Krishna was angry at Aristashura. So here Radharani begins to speak. I must create an even more beautiful pond. So go to work, she says to the gopis. Having heard these words, the gopis saw that Aristashura's hooves had dug a shallow ditch just west of Sri Krishna's pond. At that nearby spot, all the gopis began digging up lumps of soft mud with their hands, and in this way a divine pond manifested in the short span of an hour. Krishna was astonished to see the lake it produced. Also in other places mentioned, they used some of their earrings and other jewelry to actually dig up in the ground. He said, go ahead, O lotus-eyed one. You and your companions should fill this pond with water from mine. So Krishna's offering, you could use my water because your pond is just empty right now. You just dug out a big hole in the ground, but there's nothing in it. But Radha replied, no, 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 no. So there's man again, the anger. And it's really interesting. This is impossible, since the water of your pond is contaminated with your terrible sin of killing a cow. So bring the pure water of the Manasa Ganga there, in billions of pots. In this way I will fill this lake with my own water, and thus make its renown, that means reputation, unequaled in the entire world. So, if you know the geography, you have the Radhakund, and the Manasa Ganga is quite some distance away. It's something, I think it's about 5 kilometers away from Radhakund. So to bring the buckets, their whole idea was to do what's called a brigade, like a bucket brigade, you understand? Like here you call the fire department the fire brigade, right? Because the word brigade that's an interesting word. It means to pass from one person to another. Because in the old days, if there was a fire somewhere, they didn't have hoses or a fire truck. They would just get different pots and they would pass, did you know this? They would just pass the pot of water from one person to another, try to put out a fire that way. So Srimati Radharani's whole idea is to make like a brigade, same word, brigade means a whole bunch of things that are passed from one to the other. It doesn't always mean water, it can mean you can pass anything from one person to another. That's a brigade. Even like you have sometimes dominoes. You have one domino, you know dominoes? And it falls. No, you don't know about that. Anyway, that's a brigade. So that's her whole idea. And it's not going to work. So she understands that. They try and it doesn't work. So Lord Krishna then gestured to a heavenly personality who is the associate of all the holy places. Suddenly that person rose out of Krishna's pond and bowed down to the daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu, Srimati Radharani. Actually, Vrishabhanu Nandini. Here it says Vrishabhanu. Then, with palms joined and tears pouring from his eyes, he began to pray to her in devotion. O Goddess, even Lord Brahma himself, the knower of all scriptures, cannot understand your glories, nor can Lord Shiva or Lakshmi. Only Krishna, the supreme goal of all human endeavor, can understand them. And thus he feels obliged to personally make sure that you can wash away your perspiration when you are fatigued. He is always anointing your lotus feet with nectarian charu and yavaka and decorating them with ankle bells. And he rejoices and feels most fortunate simply by satisfying the tips of the toes of your lotus feet. So this is very esoteric, very elevated subject matters that Krishna actually is the servant of Srimati Radharani. Therefore his name is Madan Mohan, and Radharani's name is Madan Mohan Mohini. She who controls or bewilders the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, we know that one of the qualities of pure devotional service, according to Srila Rupa Goswami, which is under the direction of Srimati Radharani, is that it's the only means of attracting Krishna or controlling Krishna. Therefore, it's rarely obtained. This is basically nectar of devotion. Like that. So, amazing. On his order, I mean, there's no other religion in the world, no other philosophical system, no other spiritual group that has this esoteric, highest understanding of the Supreme Lord and his consort, Srimati Radharani. On his order, actually, even in South India, you have Lakshmi Narayan worship, and Lakshmi is not controlling Narayan. Lakshmi has this relationship with Narayan where she's actually quite fearful of him. Fearful, not in the sense of like afraid, but she's like awe and reverence. Like someone very, very powerful. So she serves Krishna, or she serves Narayan in awe and reverence. She never talks back to Krishna. It's like Rukmini. She's actually a good example of Lakshmi's mood. Even though Krishna wanted to get Rukmini angry at him, it didn't work. He said to her, you married the wrong person. You should get a divorce and get remarried. And she, instead of arguing with him, I mean, most ladies, if the husband said that to the wife, she'd slap him. Like that, so. But in this particular case, she just fainted. And Krishna had to, interesting, he manifested 4 arms in order to catch her. Now what does that mean, he manifested 4 arms? That means that's the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. Because Narayan, Vishnu, he has 4 arms. So Krishna was showing that. That's the mood. But whereas in the case of Srimati Radharani and the gopis, then there's this man and this anger towards the Lord. And this is most pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, On his order, we have immediately come here to live in this most excellent pond, which created by the stroke of his heel. But only if you now feel satisfied with us and bestow upon us your merciful glance will the tree of our desire bear fruit. Hearing this prayer, spoken by the representative of the full assembly of the holy places, Sri Radha was pleased and said, "So kindly tell me your desire." Then they told her plainly, "Our lives would be successful if we could come to your pond. That is the benediction we desire." Glancing at her beloved from the corners of her eyes, I mean, she was looking at Krishna like, there's a little sarcasm there. The daughter of Vrishabhanu replied with a smile, "Please come here." Her Gopi companions all agreed with her decision and became immersed in the ocean of happiness. Indeed, the beauty of all creatures, both mobile and immobile, that means that move and don't move, was enhanced. Thus, gaining the grace of Srimati Radharani, the holy rivers and lakes in Sri Krishna Kund forcibly broke through its boundary walls and swiftly filled Radha Kund with their waters. Lord Hari then said, "My dear Radha, may this pond of yours become even more world-renowned," that means famous, "than mine. I will always come here to bathe and enjoy my water pastimes. Indeed, this lake is as dear to me as you are." Very important statement. Radha replied, "I will come to bathe in your pond as well, even though you may kill hundreds of Arishta demons here. In the future, anyone who has intense devotion for this lake, which is on the spot where you chastise the Arishtasura, and who bathes or resides here, is sure to become very dear to me." That night, Lord Krishna initiated a rasa dance at Radhakund, generating a torrent, means a lot, of the greatest mood of splendorous pleasure. Sri Krishna resembled a cloud and Srimati Radharani a brilliant flash of lightning, filling the sky with abundant beauty. In this way, their divine glories permeated the expanses of the three worlds. So, actually, this particular pastime of killing Arishtasura is indicative of the last pastime, one of the last pastimes that occurred before Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura to kill Kamsa. So, we did explain the dating of this particular day. So we don't have to go into in many of the literatures in Rupa Goswami's Vidagdha Madhava, it's also described, as well as Jiva Goswami's works. These are just quotes I have here. Okay. So that's the appearance of Radhakund. And so, since we have a little more time, we can talk about Shaimananda, who's actually a very important acharya in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. So here, very quickly, I'll try to go through the biography of Shaimananda. Shaimananda was first called Dukhi, which means very unhappy because he had brothers and sisters who died before he actually appeared. And he was born with all the signs of the Mahapurush. And he was born at a period where we now consider it to be Orissa. So he was Orient. So Orissa and Bengal are right next to each other. And so he had realization that his spiritual master would always be Hridaya Chaitanya. And Hridaya Chaitanya was a very interesting personality because previously Hridaya Chaitanya was known as Hridaya Ananda. But just to make a long story short, since we don't have a lot of time, that one time Hridaya Ananda had a festival of Gaur Purnima, and the deities from his spiritual master followed, actually his spiritual master was Gauridas Pandit, followed him and left his spiritual master. And when his spiritual master Gauridas Pandit understood this, he got very angry at his disciple and angry at the deities. And the deities jumped into his heart, into the heart of his disciple. And therefore his disciple got the name Hridaya Chaitanya. Those are the person who has Chaitanya in his heart. So, but that's it. It's a longer story which we don't have time to tell right now. So he took initiation from Hridaya Chaitanya. And Hridaya Chaitanya was a coward boy by his position in previous life. And his spiritual master was also a coward boy. So he was sent by Hridaya Chaitanya to Vrindavan to study with Srila Jiva Goswami. And while he was in Vrindavan studying with Srila Jiva Goswami, he was also given some seva. And his seva was to clean this kunja called the Kanaka Kunja. So every day he would clean this Kanaka Kunja, and this Kanaka Kunja was a place where Radha Krishna would have many pastimes. So one night while they were having their pastimes, Radharani left her nupara, that means ankle bell, in this place under the iron tree. So the next morning, we find that Shyamananda found this anklet, and he became unconscious. First he tied it around his neck, and then he buried this particular anklet. So later on, Radharani, Srimati Radharani, sent Lalita to find this anklet. And Lalita came to Shyamananda, and she introduced herself as an ordinary village girl, and said, you know, my friend lost her anklet. And Shyamananda sort of called her on that bluff. He said to her, I know who you are, and I know who it belongs to. So Lalita confessed, and Shyamananda asked her for a boon. And the boon given was that he wanted to see her actual form as Lalita, because she had taken this form as just an ordinary coward girl. So then, by the mercy of Sri Lalita Devi, she manifested herself in her original form and gave him spiritual vision to see. So he fainted and he put her feet on his head. And he asked for the boon, or the blessing, that he would always serve Radha and Krishna. And Lalita gave him a mantra to see Radha and Krishna at any time and enter into their pastimes. And Lalita took this anklet, this nupara, and touched it to Shyamananda's head. And he got this special tilak, which is called the Shyamananda tilak. It's like a red U-shaped tilak. And gave him the name Shyamananda. And he was told not to tell anyone what had happened, except for Jiva Goswami. So he cried and he fainted, and he returned to Jiva Goswami, who was his Siksha Guru. And Jiva Goswami was told exactly what happened. And Jiva Goswami said, I have become your servant because you are very, very advanced. But you should tell everybody it's only by the mercy of your spiritual master that you got this. But his spiritual master, who was in Bengal, remember he was in Vrindavan, and his spiritual master was in Bengal, got very angry when he heard about this because he thought his disciple had taken reinitiation. So he sent some devotees to find out what had happened. And this Shyamananda explained, it was by the mercy of my guru. So when that information was given to his guru, who was still in Bengal, Hridaya Chaitanya got very upset. And he said, you should not accept anything that happens in a dream as reality, because he explained that actually he was initiated by Hridaya Chaitanya and Shyamananda in a dream. So Hridaya Chaitanya came back to Braj, to Vrindavan area, and asked Shyamananda, "Who is your guru?" And Shyamananda said, "You are. And the name I have and the tilak I have is by your mercy." So Hridaya Chaitanya got angry and said, "We are going to wipe off your tilak, and if it remains, then we can understand it is real." So Shyamananda chanted the Radha mantra he had learned from Sri Lalita Devi before, and he entered into the spiritual body, and he was able to enter into Radharani's temple, and he began to cry. His spiritual name was actually Kanika Manjari, that means who he was in Krishna Lila. And Lalita brought him inside to see Radharani, and he was given some betel nut from Srimati Radharani. And Radharani painted the name of Shyamananda on his chest as well as the tilak again, and said it's not going to go away. And she ordered him to tour in Orissa and preach Krishna consciousness there. So then he came back to external consciousness. His spiritual master, Hridaya Chaitanya, tried to rub off the tilak, and then it kept appearing. But his spiritual master was really angry still. Even after he came back, the tilak came back. He was continually angry. So a few days later, he began to beat his disciple with a stick. Hridaya Chaitanya was beating Shyamananda with a stick. And that night, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to appeared to Hridaya Chaitanya, and he got angry and he said, "You have beaten my dear disciple. And so in order to atone for this, you should sponsor 12 festivals." So later on, Hridaya Chaitanya went to his disciple Shyamananda and apologized for beating him up and making him bloody. And he did 12 festivals he sponsored. Jiva Goswami later ordered Shyamananda to go to Bengal and then Orissa. And there he met this devotee Rasikananda, and they preached together and spread Krishna consciousness everywhere in Orissa. So he's a very important personality. There's three personalities who were trained up by Srila Jiva Goswami. There's Shyamananda, Narottam Das Thakur, and Srinivasacharya. And these three were instrumental in taking the knowledge of the books of the Goswamis and spreading them all over, at least the eastern part of India. Bengal, of course, Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur in Bengal, and Shyamananda in Orissa. And we owe them quite a bit of the debt for spreading Krishna consciousness in that way. So, now it's time to greet the deity. Does anybody have any questions? Questions? Yes. Yeah.
Why did the gopis feel that he did something wrong?
The gopis didn't actually feel that Krishna did something wrong. They were teasing him. This is the ras. They understood he wasn't a real bull. He was a demon in the shape of a bull. But, this is a joking relationship. They didn't seriously think that Krishna was contaminated. So you have to understand in Vrindavan, everyone is young, has this youthful, just like when you're a kid. And you may not remember that. I remember when I was a little kid, everything was just like teasing, joking, playing jokes on people, practical jokes. Remember that? Probably you were too obedient with your parents. Probably you were afraid of your parents getting beaten all the time. But I wasn't. So every day, for example, I had a brother. And every day I would just play jokes with him and do different things. It was fun. We played different games, we put on different dramas. We play, of course, it's in America, we would play cowboys and Indians. American Indians. Not Indian Indians, don't worry. And we had guns and everything, like toy guns, and shoot each other and do all sorts of things like that. And I'm sure most of you who had a happy childhood would remember things like that. where you just like, it's a lot of teasing, a lot of fun, a lot of games. So the mood of the residents of Vrindavan is something like that. They're always youthful. I mean, these are, Krishna's like, 11 years old, or 12 years old, 11 or 12 at this particular time. Some acharyas say 15. Okay, so anyway, there's difference of opinion. But in any case, they're kids. They're not like old useless people, They're kids. And they're having a good time, Hey, you killed a bull. You gotta go to holy places. And of course, that doesn't know how the gopis sound. I can't imitate the gopis. And Krishna says, no, I'm not going to holy places. Like a kid. Trying to understand the mood. I'm not going to holy places. No, I'm not going to create all the holy places here. Come here, holy places. So it's not like some sophisticated thing. It's kids having a good time. And the gopis, they're also young. They're not just like college students or something. Okay, I think we have to greet the deities. Thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai, Shishi Gornitai ki jai. Jai, Radha Gopri Hari ki jai. Jai, Shri Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, ki jai. Where'd you find it?
It was in the pocket.
In my pocket? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Namacharya Shveda Sthapada Friends say Guru Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shveda Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Gopinath Shai Makunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Mathuraam Ki Jai Jagadavasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasdevi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki